India and China are scheduled to hold the 16th round of co-commander level talks on July 17th on the Indian side of the Chushul-Moldo meeting point. This is part of the efforts to take forward the stalled process of disengagement and de-escalation in eastern Ladakh, which is witnessing a standoff between the two sides for over 2 years. The Indian side will be represented by the commander of the Fire and Fury Corps, that is Lieutenant General Arindam Sengupta. The last such meeting was held on March 11 this year, and hence this meeting is taking place after a very long time. The border standoff between the militaries of the two nations erupted on May 5, 2020, following a violent clash in the Pangong Tso areas. The standoff escalated after the Galwan clashes on 15th of June 2020. The two countries had enhanced the military deployment by brushing in tens of thousands of soldiers as well as heavy weaponry since the face-off began in 2020. As a result of a series of military and diplomatic talks, the two sides have completed disengagement process last year in the north and southern banks of the Pangong Tso and in the Gogra area. It had completed disengagement in the Galwan Valley in 2020 itself. However, one area which continues to see friction is Patrol Point 15, which is also known as the Hot Springs area. Currently, there are about 35 to 50 soldiers on each side in the hot springs, the disengagement for which was first agreed upon in July 2020, immediately after the Galwan clash. However, while the Chinese did withdraw a large number of troops from the area, they retained a small group there. Army Chief General Manoj Pandey had in May this year said that the main conflict between India and China concerns the border, and Beijing's intent was to keep the boundary issue alive. While the Indian side feels that the hot spring issue will be resolved, the real problem is that of the Depsang Plains. Tensions at Depsang Plains can be traced to China's 18-kilometer incursion in the area, which is close to the strategic Daulat Beg Oldie base in 2013 and the 2017 Doklam standoff. It was reported in 2013 that 3 weeks of tensions triggered by Chinese incursions had been resolved after talks, with India and China agreeing to go back. But sources have told the print that the PLA soldiers never went back completely across the Indian perception of the line of control and stayed behind the limits of the patrolling points. At Depsang, the patrolling points are a little away from the perceived LAC like in other areas, and this is called the limit of patrolling. Soldiers don't go beyond the points even though the LAC is still ahead. However, Depsang is an area where the perception of the LAC is starkly different between China and India. According to locally established agreements, both sides were allowed patrolling until certain areas that fell into individual perceptions of the LAC. But the sources said that the practice came under stress after the Doklam standoff of 2017. According to the sources, the Depsang issue is different from the current standoff that is taking place between China and India. The Chinese have been blocking India's patrol from the bottleneck area to PP11, PP12, PP12A and PP13. This has been happening from before the current tensions at the LAC. Another source said that Indians too have blocked the Chinese patrols in the Depsang. However, this is because the Chinese perceived LAC is beyond the bottleneck area, which is around 18 to 20 kilometers from the LAC and just 1.5 kilometers from Birdsey, where the Chinese reached the claim line in 2015 during Chinese President Xi Jinping's India visit. In 2013, the Chinese had managed to complete a road behind the bottleneck area in what is known as the Raki Nala region. Indians used to go by foot beyond the bottleneck area, through which, as the name suggests, is impossible to take vehicles. In April 2013, the Chinese crossed into the Indian territory and pitched tent for 3 weeks at Raki Nala, 30 kilometers south of Daulat Beg Oldie, before they agreed to pull out. Apart from its proximity to DBO, that is Daulat Beg Oldie, what makes the area more strategically important is that if the Chinese do decide to build up until what they perceive to be the LAC, they could then gain control of the DS-DBO road and also attempt to take over the Sasella Pass, which could cut off the Siachen Glacier for India. The situation has been war-gamed multiple times by the Northern Command. So all eyes are on the talks to be held on the 17th to really see whether the two sides actually make a breakthrough or not. For The Print, this is Snehesh Alex Philip.